This is learning outcome 2. Know how training methods target different fitness components. So for this assignment, you have to learn about aerobic and anaerobic exercise, the difference between those two, as well as methods of training aerobically and anaerobically. You also need to know about the components of fitness, which will include strength, power, agility, balance, flexibility, muscular endurance, and cardiovascular endurance. Then you need to know about the specific training methods for each of those fitness components: cardiovascular training, resistance training, power training, flexibility training, agility training, and balance training. So in your assignment, which must be a report on all of these areas, you have to go into detail about them, giving definitions and lots of different sporting examples. Let's start off with aerobic and anaerobic exercise. So aerobic is using oxygen to fuel the body during exercise. Typically, when you're talking, you can hold a conversation and you can keep going for a long period of time. That's normally 60 to 80% maximum of your maximum heart rate, maximum effort. Anaerobic is producing energy for the body during exercise without the use of oxygen. Now, if you can go into detail about this, do some research, go on the internet and find out what the equations are for aerobic and anaerobic respiration, that's really going to help you and show you've got even more secure knowledge. But the key difference between those two is that one is with oxygen, one is without. Anaerobic typically involves short bursts of exercise, sprinting, moving really fast. An explosive movement like jumping or hitting something really hard would be anaerobic. So you've got down the bottom two pictures. They give you an indication of this: anaerobic sprinting, aerobic long distance cycling. And you can go into more detail and give lots of more examples of those types of things to get yourself the grades that you need. So let's look at the type of training you can do to improve these different areas. So aerobic, steady and not too fast. So walking and jogging and cycling, those types of activity are going to help improve your aerobic capacity, the ability to keep going for a long period of time without fatiguing. Anaerobic activities that you can use to help improve that area would be anything that involves short, fast bursts. So weight training is great. Interval training is also great. Other methods like plyometrics would also help to develop the anaerobic systems, and they are methods of training for aerobic and anaerobic activity. So the components of fitness, they're broken down into different areas. Depending on the activity and the position you are playing in your team will determine what components of fitness you should focus on. Now, you have to remember that you are a mentor and you're having to report to a coach about the players in their squad. So you've got to look at these players and think, what position are they? You have the opportunity to decide what position you want this person to be. So you can be quite specific. They could be a goalkeeper in the game of football. They could be the centre in netball. They could be a right wing in hockey. You make that decision, and then you've got to start making everything specific and relevant to that person and their position. So let's just have a look at an example. You've got lots of different components: strength, power, agility, balance, etc. Now, they may require some flexibility as a football player when stretching to win a tackle, but will require good cardiovascular and muscular endurance to keep running up and down the pitch. A goalkeeper will require more flexibility when reaching to save the ball, but maybe not as much cardiovascular or muscular endurance because they're not running around as much as a central midfield player would be. So the different components of fitness that you have to learn, and you have to make sure you research and get the technical definitions for these, and then give 2 or 3 clear, developed examples for each of them. This is one example. So I'm going to go through these slides one after the other. You can see the definitions. I'm just going to mention the component. I will go through this one first, though, with you. So strength, the definition is the extent to which a muscle or muscle groups can contract against resistance. An example would be tackling in rugby or lifting a teammate in a line-out in rugby. That's just one clear example, not really developed. So you can go into a lot more detail about what would be involved. So when you're having to lift a teammate, you're obviously lifting their body weight, and you have to use your muscles in order to get them up into the air. So that can involve quite an explosive movement. You might want to go into detail as well about the different types of strength that exist, because it's not just one. There's quite a few different types of strength: static strength, dynamic strength, explosive strength. All of that extra detail will get you more credit and more marks. So let's go through the other components. Power, which is the combination of speed and strength. agility, being able to change direction at speed quickly, balance, being able to hold and maintain a position, and you can get a lot more technical definitions than this. There are different types of balance as well, like static and dynamic. This is an example of a static balance when you're holding yourself in one position and staying still, but dynamic balance could be snowboarding, skiing, skateboarding, where you're having to balance on something without falling off whilst moving. Flexibility, muscular endurance, and cardiovascular endurance. So they're all the different components of fitness that you have to consider. It's important that performers are aware of what training methods can best develop these different fitness components. And that's the next section that we're going to look at now. You have to write and describe all of the next training methods, all of them with clear definitions. And then you have to link how they develop the component of fitness. Why are they so effective? What can they do to help that? And give sporting examples of how they can be used. So cardiovascular training is clearly going to help improve your cardiovascular endurance, but it can also improve your anaerobic endurance as well. So let's have a look at two different types. The first one's steady state, that's continuous, any exercise that can be continuously performed without fatigue. Then examples would be jogging, swimming, cycling, and it develops cardio endurance. So you've got your examples, you've got your definition, and you've developed that as well. You could give a lot more information, and talking about doing it over a period of time, jogging and swimming, you could give some distances, jogging 5 kilometers, swimming for 500 meters, cycling 10 kilometers, anything that shows it's a decent distance. Interval training is developed over periods of work, followed by periods of rest. So work really hard, stop, breathe, get your breath back, go again. Depending on the amount of time worked and rested will determine which component you are improving. So if you have lots of rest and you don't work too hard, it's going to be more aerobic. But if you are working full on and maximal effort and you only get a short period of time to recover, then that's going to be HIIT training, high intensity interval training. And we do that at school every Wednesday after school from 3:30 to 4 o'clock with our virtual fitness club. A lot of those are just 30 seconds and really going for it, high intensity. So you can work both with interval training for cardio training, both aerobic and anaerobic energy systems. Fartlek training is known as speed play. Now, this uses a change of intensity. So you could be walking and then sprinting, jogging and then walking, jogging, then sprinting. Really good to reflect what happens in a game. So in hockey, basketball, football, there are always constant changes of speed. So this type of training is really useful for reflecting that and developing the body systems that are going to make you more effective. You can also do it on different terrain. So in this picture, you see somebody running uphill, and that's really going to push your muscles and challenge you a lot more. So in that case, it's going to be harder. You're going to get out of breath and you're going to get a lot of lactate in your legs, and it's going to be tougher for you to perform. Of course, when you're running flat, you should have that extra energy if your body adapts and changes and is able to cope more readily with that type of activity. Then you've got resistance training, split into two different types. Resistance machines, so that's like our fitness suite at school when you're working on different machines that can help you, but also other things like parachute running, resistance bands, anything that offers a resistance for you to be able to perform the activity is going to help develop strength. And then you've got free weights. In the picture on the left-hand side at the bottom, you've got a lady lifting weights above her head, so they're dumbbells. You've also got barbells. Anything that you've got that involves, again, resistance, but these are free weights. And as opposed to resistance machines that are set in place and control your movement, you can control the movement for free weights. So they both have advantages and disadvantages. You need to research those and then look at how they could be used, examples of exercises you can do and how they'd improve, in particular, the person that you're mentoring, that sports person in the squad, whatever position they're playing, how could they be applied to that person? Then you've got circuit training. Now, what's great about this is in your assignment, you must refer to combination training. So how can you combine different training methods in order for you to gain and improve your fitness? So circuit training allows you to put lots of different training methods into the same area. So you've got different stations. You move from one station or one exercise to the next. And because of that, and you're spending time, could be 30 seconds to a minute, rotating around the different exercises. You could have weight exercises for one, you could have resistance machines for the next, you could have flexibility exercise, then you could be doing interval training for the next one. You can combine all of those. So circuit training is great because you can use lots of different training methods all in one area, one after the other. And it's an example of combination training where you put different things in together. Now, another example of combination training would be doing a 20-meter sprint, and at the end of the 20 meters, doing 5 burpees, then getting back up again, doing the other 20 meters back to the start, do another 5 burpees. So you're combining the muscular endurance of a burpee with the sprint training. So that's your speed training. So there's 2 combinations working together. Power training is great because it's all about developing power, which is speed and strength of different parts of your body. Now, there's 3 that we need to consider there. Interval training we've already looked at before, so working at high intensity with periods of rest and then going again. So that could be a combination of sprinting and weights, as mentioned before. Plyometrics, which is all about bounding, hopping, jumping. In the example at the bottom, they're doing box jumps. This is really good for developing elevation of your body, in particular leg muscles. So basketball players and netball players who want to get good elevation for rebounds and interceptions, this type of training is really useful for getting you that height. Goalkeepers in football, another example. In athletics, high jumpers, this type of training would really benefit what they want to achieve. And then the last one is repetition and acceleration sprint training. So let's just go through this. Repetition means we're going to repeat it. It's going to be done over and over again. And acceleration means you slowly build up your speed to get to full speed. So you go from starting to you start building. You don't go flat out immediately. You build up your speed gradually to a full sprint. So this is another form of interval training. And you've got maximal, near maximal effort, and then periods of rest afterwards. Flexibility training is split into 2 sections, static and dynamic. Now, static also has another 2 sections. The first one is passive stretches. That means that you're using something else, so it could be an object or another person, to help assist you with the stretch, which takes you that little bit further. And you've got to be quite good at doing that and make sure that you're experienced. If you're a novice trying to do passive stretches, it could encourage injury if you're getting pushed too far, but really effective. Active stretching is the example you see in the picture. You're on your own and nothing and nobody else is assisting you with that stretch. But it is static, so both of those mean that you are not moving when you're holding those stretches. Dynamic stretches does involve movement, typically done just before games are about to start because they reflect and mimic the actions within a game. So if you were to swing your arms, do arm circles or do lunges, they are examples of dynamic stretches. So the muscle is being moved, it's contracting and extending, but it's doing that through movement. As long as it's done carefully and after you've done your static would normally come first, then that's really good preparation for a match situation. All right, then, agility training. And you can see some of this information is quite lightweight. So you are going to have to go away and do your research and find out more about what these are. Agility training involves changing direction quickly. So agility ladders and agility hurdles. Agility ladders, you can see the picture here. It's all about quick feet, going forwards, backwards, side to side, moving really quickly, which is what happens in game situations. Agility hurdles would be similar, changing direction, but jumping over hurdles at the same time. So that's kind of combining the movements of legs going up and down, the running movement and jumping and bounding movements, but changing direction also, which is highly effective. Very close now to finishing all the training methods, and one of the last ones is balance training. So you can see we've got balance board and exercise ball. In the picture below, you've got people that are balancing on what looks like a type of board. It's kind of squishy in the middle. It enables them to try and hold their body in one position. They'll be wobbling. It'll be difficult for them to do that. So their core, their abdominal muscles, that core stability is vital. Now, in games like netball, where you jump up in the air and you have to land possibly on 1 foot and 2 feet, this can be invaluable. It can develop your muscles to withstand that temptation to fall over as gravity is trying to drag you down. So you strengthen those muscles, your core is more able to resist that. Exercise balls are balls then that you sit on. We've got those in the fitness suite, as you're well aware of. Again, another opportunity to sit on them, to lie on them in different positions, to develop your core stability, so your stomach muscles are having to hold you in position without you falling off.